was in London in 1973. I went to a theater called Stratford East, where there was this play, Sweeney Todd, which I heard was Grand Guignol, and I'd never seen Grand Guignol, and I'd always been a fan of horror movies. And so I went, and it wasn't Grand Guignol at all. It was this very interesting, funny suspense play called Sweeney Todd by a man named Christopher Bond, and for some reason it just struck me that it would sing. And so I was having lunch the next day with a director named John Dexter, and I said, do you know about Sweeney Todd? And he told me something about Sweeney Todd, which was that it was first written in the 1840s, and over a period of a century and a half, it had been changed and rewritten by various actor-managers. And what he did was he got a copy from the British Library of the original, and I read it, and it was very 1830s melodrama. And then I read each of the subsequent versions and realized that the only interesting version was Christopher Bond's version, who had, because originally it was just a tale of a murderous barber and a woman who made the victims into meat pies. And what Christopher Bond had done was he had given it some motivation and some color by giving a character to Sweeney Todd, who was more than just a murderer, but in fact a wronged man.
15 years of sweating in a living hell on a trumped-up charge. 15 years of dreaming that perhaps I might come home to a loving wife and child. Let them quake in their boots, Judge Turpin and the Beadle, for their hour has come.
I then went to Christopher Bond and asked him if I could do a musical of it. So I got to work on it in 1978, and we put it on in 1979. I thought it would be nice to do, since the primary purpose was to scare people, to do an intimate thing. And so I went to Hal Prince, and Hal doesn't like Victorian stuff very much, and he was not interested until he got the idea of doing it as a sort of epic piece. He said to me, look, I know you want something small and scary, but what you won't get from there, I'll give you in terms of size. And I thought to myself, well, eventually I can do it small, so why not do it with Hal's, kind of operatic vision? And that's what we did.
The tale of Sweeney Todd. His skin was pale and his eye was odd. He shaved the faces of gentlemen who never thereafter were heard of again. He trod a path that few have trod, did Sweeney Todd. The demon barber of Fleet Street. Swing your razor wide, swinging forward to the stars. Freely flows the blood of those who mourn.
When I started at the New York Philharmonic in 1995, the millennium was on everybody's minds. And I felt very strongly that the New York Philharmonic had stolen from it its real legacy as the primary motivator for American music in the United States. Stephen Sondheim is the great music theater composer of the 20th century, in my estimation, even greater than Puccini. So I thought, both as a tip of the hat to him and a way of crowning our American Classics initiative, which is what it was called, we'd be able to do Sweeney Todd. Bryn Terfel, the great Welsh bass baritone, had just been at the New York Philharmonic, and I asked him whether he would sing the role, and he said yes. So I had a great Sweeney in Bryn lined up to go.
According to Wells, Bryn Terfel had been a fan of the piece and wanted to do it. So this was 2 years in advance. This is like, 4 years ago. And so and it was going to coincide with my 70th birthday and that sort of thing. So it sounded like it would, it would be very exciting to do. And so it was that sort of turned me on. That it was going to be Bryn.
My agent called and said, are you interested? They called about doing Sweeney Todd, and I had done a lot of concert versions of shows, and so I had sort of sworn off them, which usually means concert versions are full orchestra and people carrying the scripts and sort of doing funny, clever ways of passing the scripts while you're dancing. And I thought, you know what, I've said all there is to say about that, and I'm done with that. But it was Sweeney Todd.
We then found a Mrs. Lovett in Patti LuPone doing her first ever Sondheim role. And that seemed like an ideal combination.
And no wonder where the price I meet what it is when you get it. Never thought I'd live to see that day. Many think it was a treat finding poor animals what are dying in the street.
I was very intimate with Sweeney Todd and had loved it all these years. But when I looked at the piece again for staging it for the concert, because the show has simultaneous action, there was no way to sort of tell the story unless you were going to narrate it. By having people just stand up in front of microphones. So it seemed the only sensible solution was to find a way to do simultaneous action in an interesting way. When I came up with the idea of surrounding the orchestra with a series of platforms and levels, and also because of how large it would have to be, the cast would have to run around a lot. And I thought that that would give a lot of energy.
We then went to a variety of the other roles that I wanted to cast with other opera singers like Bryn. John Aler and Stan Olsen, two fabulous tenors, for the roles of the Beadle and the Pirelli.
My involvement with the project originally in New York came about because of my association with the New York Philharmonic. Wells Kaufman, who was the artistic administrator there at that time, who really was the driving force between this whole project, knew my work very well and invited me to sing.
I'm Adolfo Pirelli, the king of the barbers, the barber, the king say buongiorno, good day. I blow you a kiss.
Sondheim and I had gone to Los Angeles to see a concert performance of Sweeney Todd there.
Steve Sondheim came and saw it, liked it, wanted me to do the one in New York.
Rub a minute, stimulating in it. Soon you'll have to thin it once a week.
I was extremely lucky to be involved in a production in Los Angeles first, about a year and a half ago. Both Neil and I were involved in that one. The Philharmonic came up, and then the rest is history.
I feel you, Johanna. I feel you.
Sadly, Bryn canceled 2 weeks before we did our performances in New York due to a back injury he suffered at Covent Garden.
And I jumped at George because of how much I admired him as an actor and how much I'd loved him in this role.
Oh, Bryn Terfel was the greatest, is probably the greatest baritone alive now. And my agent said, you know, he's hurt his back. He may not come in to do this, so maybe you should be ready. And then I said, well, the last thing in the world I would do is replace the most famous baritone living with a Broadway I say hack, but a Broadway actor coming into, and everybody's bought tickets for it. I had friends who were coming from Los Angeles, and I knew people from Rome. Everybody was coming to hear him with Patti, and the wonderful opera singers and the fabulous. So I said, I'm not going to do it in a million years. And then they asked me, and I did it.
There was a barber and his wife, and she was beautiful. A foolish barber and his wife. She was his reason and his life, and she was beautiful, and she was virtuous, and he was naive.
The Symphony was looking into the possibility of producing a musical in July of this year, and when we got down to really discussing details about the summer and the schedule, felt that Sweeney Todd would be a good way to start. We've never done anything like this before, certainly not nothing of this magnitude before.
I choose not to ignore any element that is put in front of me on stage. And the key element in a musical is the orchestra.
And it took 25 minutes for all of you to start hearing where the orchestra was.
Well, we had a problem with hearing. We're having a problem with hearing up here. We talked to Tom. He's opening up the speakers.
Well, it got better.
I think
25 minutes.
We got used to not hearing, but we just talked to Tom
Okay,
about...
great. Okay.
I was just going to say before easy now, it's just celeste, which you may not hear. So that's what I'm going to give you really big. I'll do mouth
No,
too.
it's the mouth, baby.
Okay.
I can hear the celeste. It
Oh,
was
you
like
can? Okay.
easy now. I went, what's the lyric?
Okay.
Is it easy love or is it easy now? And then I went, oh, God, I'm not with you.
Sing anything you want.
No, I can't do that.
Nothing's gonna harm you, not while I'm around. Nothing's gonna harm you, darling, not while I'm around.
But you don't understand. 2 quid was in it, 2 or 3.
It's really special for us as soloists to be able to interact with the orchestra and actually hear specific pieces from the left or from the right of an oboe track. The dissonance is just crazy. And it's nice that the show is so strong even when you strip away the props and the sets and all that, and just as a piece, as a concert piece, it still holds up so strong.
As time went on and people realized the magnitude of the project, there was a mixed version of sort of panic and excitement about it at the same time, because we're not a theater, we're not set up to mount a stage show necessarily.
Okay, stop on stage right. Stage center. Come in.
Just down a little bit.
But let's do the same. Okay.
That's fine.
Sweet Polly,
drop the drop.
Like in the Philharmonic, what happened here is it's like 2 or 3 days of getting everybody in a room, and then with the chorus, it's like a day and a half. I mean, we had basically one rehearsal with the chorus in the room and everybody together. So it's really madness, you know. It's thrilling because then everybody very quickly, you know, gets excited and they all feed off each other, and there's a great energy about it. But it's terrifying if you're in any way a control freak, which any director is.
Anthony, Todd. But by then, you guys have got to be stopped moving. Stage right.
By then or at then?
By then would be good if you can.
I did my work beforehand. I've been working on the score for about 9 months beforehand because I knew that there was no time. And there's one, I don't want to go on stage in a state of high anxiety. So I started working on it with my musical director, Dick Gallagher, at home in Connecticut.
They figured she had to be off Jessie, so all of them stood there and laughed. Jessie, poor soul, poor thing.
Vicki Clark, the Beggar woman, Tim Nolen, the judge, and I are new to these parts also. So we are sort of cramming, let's say.
I guess we started Monday afternoon. I came right from the airport, went straight into rehearsal. And this is Wednesday. So I coached and rehearsed with Lonnie and Rob Fisher in New York for about a week.
The first day, there are spots where you just have no idea where you are, what your name is. Couldn't tell me my name under torture, you know, and then I can't think of what I'm doing. And then about 2 days later, everything starts to plug in, I found anyway. And so it has. I'm not going to be arrogant. I'm doing it now after a year, and it may plug in, and so far it has.
Thank you, Patti. Thank you, George. Sleep, rest, you're loved, and thank you for your assistance.
This is not a typical situation of working on a Broadway show. We do it in a very concentrated way. 4 or 5 days of rehearsal, throwing it all together and working. It seems to me that opera singers always want to go home. Broadway singers always want to stay and rehearse. When all of us are thinking, oh God, this rehearsal is endless. When can I go? All Broadway singers want to do is, can we add a rehearsal? Can we go overtime? It's a really interesting difference, I think.
In opera, they know their roles, and if it's not a new production, it's a production they've done several times. With us, it's always a new situation. And in this particular case, there isn't enough rehearsal time for what is a musical that would, if it was being mounted for a Broadway stage, would have 4 weeks at least rehearsal.
Would you want to do the whole thing? All right, let's do it. Let's run.
George Hearn, he's a monster, you know. He's a tremendous, tremendous performer. His astonishing concentration and professionalism and focus that for anybody, musical theater or opera or theater, to watch a craftsman at work like George, it's a gift, you know. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
There's a hole in the world like a great black pit, and it's filled with people who are filled with shit, and the vermin of the world inhabit it. But not for long. They all deserve to die. Tell you why. Mrs. Lovett, tell you why.
So the opera singers were very generous about being in it, and they did not, any of them, give any sense of condescending, at all. I tried to sing with Paul Pliszka at his volume level for one afternoon, and the next day my throat was sore. I said, all right, back off and be modest and sing just the way you sing.
At New York, in the first performance, we had such ovations. And the people from music theater looked at the opera singers and said, well, you guys probably get this all the time. And we were thinking, these guys probably get this all the time. In fact, nobody gets it all the time.
The ones of us made our career in opera, this is my hobby. I love this. I love doing this. I love taking off every 2 or 3 years and doing a show.
As years pass, Johanna, you'll tend me in my solitude, no longer as a daughter, as a woman. Johanna, Johanna, I'll hold you here forever, and you'll keep away from windows, and you'll deliver me, Johanna, from this hot red devil.
All my colleagues in opera are terribly jealous of me.
It's a supreme art form, opera, and to be able to share the stage and to sing with opera singers and to sing with a symphonic orchestra is a thrill beyond compare.
Who once I had in Canterbury, 'tis a row-dow, diddle-dow-day, 'tis a row-dow, diddle-dow-dee.
The interesting thing is just throwing it all together, is today, tonight, and yesterday, when the orchestra's there, and, you know, they only have an hour and a half, and now the costumes are on, and now, you know, there's cameras in your face, and it's like everything just has to go. You just have to do it and see if it goes well, and cross your fingers.
There's never enough time, and particularly for to be directing the stage version and the television version. You know, the cameras didn't have a camera blocking rehearsal.
With George. One.
I like one.
Ready for 45, and that's what, 46 next. And one.
Everybody's just winging it and just jumping in and throwing themselves at it.
Just for the actors, I want you to know, Kenny, would you raise your hand? There's Ken. Kenny, and Kenny is on his handheld. Please, if you see him near you, just let him go by. He's got shots to take. There are 2 handheld cameras on the set. Kenny is one, and Bill. So actors, if you see them, just yield for them. We'll figure out where the traffic problems are when we get to them.
It feels like being a general, kind of in an army, and you have all these different kind of camps, and you're just putting it all together.
Also, taking over me, he switched his bows, so I've got to redo, Judy, we've got to redo the camera shots because he's now bowing where he wants to and not where we want him to.
Tim, venal young men, I think that's the cross. And you come in, right? And then you have whatever it is, and then venal young men who have nothing on their minds, but then maybe just get a little closer to it.
Yeah, I thought we were a little far away, but...
I know I do like the distance.
I seemed a little further.
Just, yeah, it did.
Last night.
It did.
Lonnie's brilliant. Besides having such a wonderful creative mind, whatever obstacle comes in his way, he doesn't carry it with him.
We just came from rehearsal just now where Mr. Sondheim was there giving us his insights on certain things that were new to most of us. We were learning things as we were listening to him talk about the show and how he hears it and how he feels it and what the tempo should be for this section. That's the best part of this whole experience, to hear his feedback and to give him back what he wants and what he has envisioned in this amazing masterpiece.
Steve's work to me has really shaped my aesthetic for my whole life, my whole artistic life. So just to get to do anything with him, or that I get to work on his work, it's really a hero to me. And a lot of, I think, why I'm in the theater is because of the caliber of his work and the passion in his work and I just think he's the greatest.
I think Pirelli should appear on the tremolo. He appears. Talk to him.
Fine.
He should come out on the tremolo. That's what the tremolo's for.
It was sort of to stop the hand.
Why would he get a hand since the music hasn't reached a cadence?
Then maybe I'm not.
Okay. So it goes. tremolo, tremolo, he appears, talk to him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
As
saying.
long as you don't pause after talk to him, you won't get a hand.
Okay, fine.
Although the spotlight was very good this time, it still takes a moment for the audience to adjust focus.
Right.
So if he'll come out a little sooner,
sure.
And that's exactly what causes him to turn and say, talk to him.
Talk to him.
Stephen Sondheim's works are at a different level than most other musical theater pieces. The orchestrations are at the same level as many other orchestral works by what you would refer to as classical music composers. The music itself, played by a pit band for a Broadway show, is fabulous and incredible, but when it's played by a full symphonic orchestra, it just, it brings it to a whole new level.
He's very supportive. He loves actors, and it was lovely to have him in today. It was, kind of comforting and great. He's so supportive.
Steve's music is infinitely more complicated, and the lyrics as well. So the challenge is getting all the notes right. That sounds simplistic, but his work is incredibly complicated.
And he was beautiful, and he was a certain notes. It may have been what you heard. That's correct.
And he was...
He was... I don't
Well, no, it may be... And he was...
That's correct. That's correct. You went lower than that. You went, and he was... Went down.
As I reacted at one point, I remember just going, oh my God, and turning around and Sondheim was standing here. I thought, there's someone standing next to me, and it was him, and I went, oh my God, I'm standing here in the wing with Stephen Sondheim, watching his music, and no one else was in the wing except the two of us. And for me, that was the most special moment I've had thus far.
I've never gotten anything negative from Steve, although he's meticulous about what he wants, rightfully so, because I've come to learn that there's not a single... You remember in Amadeus, he says, nothing was rewritten. Well, I don't know about rewriting, but there's no fat in this piece. This piece is a maverick piece. It doesn't quite fit in any category. There's a lot of talk among the learned about whether this is an opera or not an opera.
If I had to label Sweeney Todd, I would say it's an operetta. It's a black operetta. It's a dark operetta. It's certainly not about inventing a new form. It's just, content dictates form. I can't imagine how else you write Sweeney Todd except with a lot of music, because it's a thriller. I want music to be continuous because it's a horror movie.
Benjamin Barker! Benjamin Barker! What's the sound of the world out there?
What, Mr. Todd, what is that sound?
Those crunching noises pervading the air.
Mr. Todd, yes, all around.
It's man devouring man, my dear. Then who are we to deny it in here?
I think this is one of the masterpieces of the 20th century. I think this is musical theater at its height. I don't think it gets better than this. I don't think there's a better set of lyrics or music anywhere for anything. I just think this is the epitome of the form.
High born and low, my love.
We'll not discriminate great from small. No, we'll serve anyone, meaning anyone, and to anyone at all.
You want to honor a genius, and I think Steve is a genius. He is our poet laureate of the musical stage.